Every single time you see black millionaires speak, you always know that, oh, this person says yes, boss, to someone. We live almost in something that is like a conspiracy. It's like there's never any true liberation for our people. Even if you're Patrice Motsepe, you have a Rob Hersov who speaks down on you. Because Patrice Motsepe is boss, but our family gave his father this first business and this, and he speaks to him like he's a boy.
So there are aspects of my life that I will never reveal. That are between myself, my family.
On the third day. That one, yeah.
Like Christ himself.
What was that about?
I don't even know.
I don't know. Restaurant in a beautiful place in South Africa, and he left you with
love them.
Roots,
babe.
He's not circumcised.
I was told. I mean, not just from Fundis and all of that. I mean, I heard the audible voice of God.
It wasn't a decision.
It wasn't a decision.
It's funny, Nkululeko, because whenever there's a clip that has made its way on Twitter and trended, and it's usually a controversial clip because it's always those clips that make its way to Twitter and they trend. I pum now, so you never lambasted. It's always your guest. How do you successfully do that? Because some hosts can't tell about people have a problem with them. Somehow Nkululeko survives the mess, and the clip will just do things for the guest, and the guest is just lambasted.
Yeah, I give people enough time to speak their mind, keeping in mind that we're not on television. We're doing podcasting, digital media. So although we have some time limitation, of course, we can't speak for 5 hours, 3 hours, but we have a better leeway with time than radio. So I keep quiet, you know what I'm saying? And I've been saying to a lot of people that I think the best way to do this is to get the hell out of the way.
Yeah.
Puma. The person must speak because it's their interview. They are the guest. When you get out of the way. Of course, I'm controversial at times, but I think maybe I'm helped with the fact that I'm only on Facebook, and on Facebook, I'm only about football.
Yes.
And
my brother.
Yeah, Nkululeko, my brother, exactly. And that's like, I have maybe 25,000 people who follow me there.
Yeah.
And that they are only following football. So I can't even write about Zuma this or music that. I'm literally so limited because that audience only understands football. And even football, they have questionable understanding of it. So I don't have a space where I can ventilate those thoughts and have a rope to hang myself with. Because I'm not on Twitter. I decided deliberately not to be on Twitter. I think that something is wrong with that space. I've listened to the engineers who started that space, who started the algorithms.
Yeah.
And they were explaining why they have 120 characters initially for people to work with. Therefore, it enables people to be able to say umsunukanyogo without being broad and explain themselves. They just get to the point quickly because there's a limitation. And they that's why they're so rude, and unnecessary as a group of people. If you look at the other platforms that allow you better leeway or more leeway to be able to express yourself, there's less contestation and nonsense. But maybe I'm helped. Just to answer your question, maybe I'm helped by the fact that I'm not on Twitter too much.
Definitely, I agree that Twitter is a problem because I don't know if it has made it bigger, this thing that people have a short attention span.
Yeah.
So it just feels that too. Because if you have less characters to express your point, people are so desperate to have a tweet that is a banger.
Yeah.
A tweet that will trend, a tweet that will do numbers. And people are also noticing that you get that tweet by touching nerves or being emotional about things or saying things that are controversial. So when your videos do make it onto Twitter, people will always take the videos that have the most controversy and put them on Twitter. And you're saying that you not being on Twitter has protected you from being subject to that.
Yeah, can you imagine that perhaps I would want to defend myself when it's being misrepresented or misinterpreted? I would want to retweet that video and then maybe have a statement, and then it would snowball from there.
Yeah.
And also I'm not that big as a personality that people want to listen or hear from me. I know like every time I speak on platforms, at least 10,000 people are interested to hear what I got to say, but I'm not 100,000, 200,000 type of personality where whatever I'm saying, people are following and Zalebs generate an article from that or any other digital news platform. So maybe that's also helpful for me ukuthi I'm not that big of a personality. But I think if I were on that space, I would want to protect my art, obviously. I would want to say, no, this person meant this or that. But I think I'm old, man. I'm 32 years old, bro. And like,
You're not old.
I feel old though. Like I feel old. By the time I got to Joburg, I was already 29 years old.
Yeah.
I already had a career at Soccer Laduma. I was an award winner, you know. And I already had made some money. I was respected in my community. I bought my house when I was 24. I'm not trying to tell my life story. I'm just trying to build the context. I was never going to be gassed up. And I didn't come to Joburg when I was 20, whereas the lights are blinding me. I want to snort cocaine with my friends or drink alcohol. I was already a formulated human being. We didn't drink, we didn't smoke. I still don't drink, I still don't smoke. So I knew, Twitter, no, don't go.
It's one of those.
It's like, it's like a cocaine. It's like, I don't touch, that's a drug, you know. So for me, I saw it from that perspective that I don't want to be part of that, you know. And I'm happy that I'm not. Of course, it is helpful. You know, it might have helped my episodes to get more traction if I was participating there. That's why when we spoke off air, I was talking about having someone for social media, someone I'll pay to do that, not me participating in that, because I think it's corrosive. I think that you get to take seriously what people are saying, and I think that people are very malicious. There's all perspectives on Twitter. Like you could say that I love oranges, and then people say, does that mean you hate bananas? You know, and then you can get into that thing. Like, I know what I am. Like, I'm an emotive being. It's possible that I could reply to such a person who's being deliberately cynical. You know, so I know myself enough to know that I don't have to go there.
Also, that type of platform has almost diluted social media, because we entered social media because we wanted to find an alternative voice as ordinary people to express our thoughts.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden, the things we do think are causing us to be cancelled, or causing us to be seen as bad people, but it's things we think as humans. And I can tell you for free that the things we think, you know, so it really isn't the best of platforms out there.
There's never been a time in human history where we've been able to broadcast our thoughts the way that we do.
Yes.
I think if you wake up in the morning and you log onto Twitter or Facebook, which I prefer Facebook, it's possible that within the first 10 minutes of you being there, you could hear thoughts, or you could see thoughts by 10 different people. Of course, if you're addicted to it, it could be 100 different people within the next 20 minutes. You're just scrolling and scrolling and consuming and consuming and consuming. And I don't think that that's a good thing. I don't think that people were designed to be that by the time you wake up and you have your breakfast or you brush your teeth, you've already spent 20 minutes on your phone. That
consuming
means
other people's thoughts.
Absolutely. So that means it's almost as if in this house, before I even got out of bed, I had 10 children who wanted my attention.
I get you.
Like one after the other. Yeah, but which is literally what I'm doing when I'm consuming stuff. It's like this child is sick from this child forgot to do their homework. Imagine that bombardment every morning, Uguti. That could affect your mental health. Yeah, but so I think it's very important for us to know, Uguti, this is a trap. This is the trap. This is a trap. You know, I suppose obviously not everyone has a built-in system to know things that are not good for them. Other people gravitate towards things that are not good for them. That's why we have a lot of people who are homeless. Some people are addicts. Some people are in prison, because some people have this thing. I don't know whether it's a built-in system that lets them gravitate towards. Like, as soon as usbanbani, you're wrong. Like, that's not a good friend for you. It's like you gravitate towards that person. They're giving you a reason for you to go to that person. So there are a lot of people like that in the world, unfortunately.
Why did you gravitate towards YouTube? Is it because it's everything it's everything that isn't what you just mentioned? YouTube allows you to be yourself, express your thoughts, and then the algorithm does the work for you. You don't have to sit there and keep on consuming.
Yeah. So you mean as a consumer?
Yes.
Why? Okay. For me, YouTube, I think is a replacement of books. Is a replacement for books. So these, I have maybe 20 or 30 of these in my house. In the next 12 months, I'll probably have 100 books, and all of them I've read. All of them I've gone through them. But I think what YouTube has allowed us, and I'm recognizing this now, through podcasts such as Lex Fridman podcast, and some other niche podcasts. They give you, they have experts who speak on a topic, right, for 2 hours. And in essence, you are able then to consume as much as good information without the build up to the good information that you would get in a book.
In a book.
So a book builds you up to a certain point, and sometimes it takes time and sometimes it's frustrating, but with podcasts, the people who are being interviewed by some brilliant interviewers, and they get to the point. Like eventually they will get to the point, and they give you the best parts of the field that they've spent 20 years researching and being educated on. For the most part, even watching football content, you know that this guy has played football for 20 years. They've been now a pundit or an analyst for the last 5 years. They go to each and every game. They watch matches, and you watch the game as well. You want to hear their views as well. So you get to hear mostly from experts if you choose to. Yeah. If you choose to search the things that you want to consume, because some people are there driven by the algorithm, unfortunately. Like, they are willy-nilly consuming anything and everything on YouTube, and they're driven by the algorithm. If the algorithm saw you consuming a video Kaula, then they will suggest other people that are gossiping about
content.
Exactly. And then you find yourself in the rabbit hole of like 3 hours gossip content.
3 days, because every time on your homepage, it's just...
Exactly. That's like the first 5 things on your homepage are gossip content. So it's a choice. For me, Nkululeko Nkewu, I decide to consume YouTube content about the things that I care about. I will consume information about spies and the CIA and the FBI and COVID-19 and Russell Brand, and a lot of people, like, for 2 hours, and I'm like, I'm stimulated, and then sometimes I will consume analysis about basketball for like 30 minutes or 15 minutes, analysis about football for like 10, 20 minutes. And that's like literally the heart and soul of why I'm always on YouTube. And then sometimes I will watch specifically for the purpose of trying to see how other creators create. So I like YouTube because you get, it's not like a timeline that whenever you scroll up, you don't know what's going to be below. It will shock you what you see below. It's like, this is the homepage, most likely of the things that you've consumed or similar to the things that you've consumed, and you can decide to click, or you can just press and say, don't show this on my timeline.
So in still on YouTube, in every industry you have the A-listers, B-listers, C-listers, chances, randoms. YouTube is becoming that space in South Africa where, I don't know if it was because of COVID but for whatever reason, the podcasting space is becoming big, right? Before the podcasting space, you were having a lot of young women creating vlogs. That was big on YouTube. And recently, people are creating podcasts, talk shows, whatever you want to call them, but it's sit-down conversations that are long formats. Do you think we have too many podcasts at the moment, or do you think we should be they should be supports of each other in the podcast, and we should be encouraging more people because we need perspectives from all walks of life?
I think I don't have a right answer and wrong answer to this. I've been watching your content and a lot of other people's content, the illegal podcast, Nkululeko on Culture. I've been watching a lot of them, and I think that I'm not answering the question directly, but I think with the influx of young creators now, I would like to say to a lot of them that there's something that's changing with the algorithm at YouTube. It's now getting more difficult to get to 5,000 views. Even for us who are established, it's getting more difficult. It's easier for people that like Podcast and Chill. It's easier for Disky TV because they have an existing subscriber base, and a core fan, like a core 10,000 fans or a core 20, 50,000 fans that will always go there. And as a result, there will be a ripple effect because of those 50,000 base subscribers. When you have nothing, when you have no subscribers,
you just depend on YouTube pushing it for you.
Exactly. And also you depend on the personality that you invite on your platform. You will always be personality driven in who you invite, and if it's a big personality, they might give you big views, a huge number of views for that moment, but it doesn't guarantee that those people will stay because they were there for the personality.
True.
In the first place. So I think that there's a big concern because I've been watching it in the last 4, 5, 6 weeks. I've been watching it and I'm like, geez, everyone is struggling to get to 5,000.
Yeah.
And for me, my minimum, what is it called? Viable. So the smallest number of people that I need in order for me to continue shooting.
To say, keep the lights on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's called smallest viable audience. Smallest viable audience. So I always thought that if I can get myself to 10,000 people to watch, that's like an arena. I'm a musician and I'm performing to an arena of 10,000.
I hear you.
I've never aspired to 100 to 500,000. I can build to that in 5 years, not now. I know this industry enough to know what to do to get to 10,000 at the very least. And then you create a ripple effect with your core fan base, just like musicians do and just like artists do. So for me, I've been trying to get there. And I think that I'm somewhere between 5,000 and 10,000 of a core audience that wants to watch everything that
Every
I shoot.
episode, yeah.
And for me, I'm happy when it gets to 10,000. I'm stress-free. I stress when it's on 5,000 to 7,000, but still, those are decent enough numbers. Within 7 days, if it gets to 10,000, I'm cool. To creators, this is very, very difficult. I want to say this before I answer your question, that we are in a very, very difficult period now.
Yeah.
Where it's very difficult to get to even 1,000 views. I've seen it and I'm like, geez. And it's very depressing as well. When people are struggling to get to 1,000 views, because it's discouraging, because you have to pay a videographer. Sometimes when people sit next to you for an interview, you have to pay them too.
Yes.
For the most part, whenever, and you flew me to Durban.
Yes.
For the most part, I have to pay people's Ubers to come. So you could be spending 1,500 for the whole thing or 2,000 for the whole thing if you factor in your videographer fee for the shift and everything else that comes with it. And then you could only just be getting 200 rands from YouTube.
Yeah.
Now you are at a deficit of like 1,800 if you spend 2,000, and I think that's very, very difficult. I think that there's nothing wrong with a lot of YouTubers getting into the space. I think that all points of view must be ventilated and reflected. There's 9 provinces and 9 different indigenous languages, with the exception of Afrikaans and English. There's 9 different vernacular languages in South Africa, main ones that are recognized, obviously. I would like to think that there are groups of kids in Eastern Cape that have a point of view. And
they can only express themselves in East Coast.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I don't think that there's only 5 of them, because the Eastern Cape has millions of people and millions of like teenagers, or young adults, millions of them. Same thing with KZN, same thing with Limpopo, same thing with Mpumalanga. So you would imagine that with every single province having a bunch of like 1,000 kids on average, or young adults on average who want to express themselves, then you will have at least 5,000 YouTube channels that exist. And I think that that's good for the consumer. It might be confusing because when I'm on Spotify, so radio has been cannibalized by streaming platforms, in that we can have access to our favorite songs without requesting it from the DJ, without paying a compiler. We just directly, there's a relationship between the consumer and the creator directly through the streaming platforms. But you spend enough time on the streaming platforms, on Spotify, which I'm always on Spotify, and then you get confused. Which song do I play next? Because I was there, because this morning I woke up and I was telling someone last night that I want to wake up and listen to Mlindo the vocalist, his latest album, because I didn't give myself a chance this year to listen to it. I like 3 or 4 songs there. And I was like, after that, I have a lot of other songs that I listen to regularly. But I was like, where do I go next? Whereas on radio, for example, they used to they curated content for you. They selected what plays next on your behalf. So even with these YouTubers, you may be confused, and the discoverability of the YouTubers as well may be confusing, because like there's 1,000 YouTubers talking about 1,000 different things. How do I decide which one is the right one for me? And then it challenges the consumer to pick for themselves. Whereas on SABC1, at 7:30 Zindaba, and then at 8 Generations, 8:30 Uzalo, whatever plays in that sequence, right? So the channel has already selected content for you. But now, with all of these YouTube channels, you have to figure it out yourself. You are honest. That's why the big ones will always win, because it will always be the wisdom of the crowds.
Yes.
So if everyone is talking about podcast and chill, then people will naturally gravitate towards podcast and chill, because it becomes the it thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's not about actually the content. It's about everyone else consuming it and me not fearing missing out.
Yeah.
You know, and then be participating in the act of listening to it or watching it, devoting my time every time that they upload content. So the consumer is being asked to choose, and every time people are being asked to choose, research has been done, is that they go for the wisdom of the crowd.
Yes.
What are my peers saying?
Yeah.
Oh, it's 2000. The year is 2000, and everyone else is buying Loction Culture instead of Converse. You know, the Chuck Taylor Converse. Let me go for Loction Culture myself.
Yeah.
And then it evolves, and that's why there are fads and trends, because one person influences the other, and all of a sudden we have in a festive season 4 or 5 years ago, every girl, children, and boy child, ekasi, they're wearing camouflage. Soldier camouflage, exactly.
Yeah.
So we influence
During
one
Christmas.
another. Exactly. Yeah. During Christmas, everyone was wearing camouflage. So basically, that will be the disadvantage of these smaller channels, in that it's unlikely that people will gravitate towards them unless there's always a sprinkle of poof, viral moment, and then every 2 weeks, poof,
Another viral moment, yeah.
Poof, and then that's how you will get, you know, the attention from people, which has happened to us on Nkululeko on Culture, which has happened to your platform whenever you have Nota or Penwell or Ongizo Mkhulu, something hilarious that you would have said on your platform. So you will rely on those viral moments. And then the other problem is that when you get those people to go to your platform eventually, are they there for you, or are they there for Ungizo and what he said and whatever he was saying in a funny way, you know? So like, we have a lot of challenges, and essentially what I'm saying is that winners are going to win and losers are going to lose, and a lot of people are going to be in between. We'll probably only have like 5 to 10% best YouTubers winning. And then, because I think even the YouTube algorithm, the way that it behaves, and I've been monitoring it, it will always favor the winners.
Yes.
It will always, Disky will never have less than their core base. We have 155,000 subscribers, 160,000 subscribers. We will never have less than 10,000 people watching our episodes. We've already won. And then MacG is winning on a different scale, obviously, you know, and Offensive Mwasa winning on a different scale. Everyone who's reaching 1 million. Or threatening to reach 1 million subscribers, they are winning on a different scale.
Yeah.
So when with your audience of like 20,000, 5,000, you just have to build and keep on grinding.
Yeah.
And let this not be your basic income. Let this be
because you're going to be quickly deterred.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's going to be demotivating. You're not going to make money. But you will make money if you do it for 5 consecutive years.
Yeah.
And you keep every month, you keep getting at least one episode that is like 100,000 subscribers. Sorry, 100,000 views.
Yeah.
You know, and it is those incremental growth spurts that will get you in 5 years. Forget about anything else. You cannot target 100,000 people to watch your thing, but you can always target having a super celebrity come into your platform, or someone who's very interesting. Because Bonga Sitole, I interviewed him and we got close to 1 million views from that. He was not a super celebrity.
Absolutely.
I just saw the potential of having a dope conversation through looking at his video, and I was like, we're going to have a dope conversation here. I knew.
You speak of being consistent for 5 years.
Yeah.
You've also recently spoken about the algorithm. If you watch a Musakawula, it will direct all your homepage content towards content that is like that gossip content.
Sure.
People like Musakawula. You and I off air, we spoke about Unsigi Mazwai. Now we're entering a new issue, a new pandemic.
Sure.
That because everybody also in fear of missing out of having a podcast or a talk show or this type of format, we're having people who have the equipment finding people who have the potential to be viral and putting them on screen, on video, and you find a person who was either big on Twitter, big on Facebook, and you know that they are popular, but they might not have the financial acumen. And we who are owners, you and I who own our podcasts fully with the equipment, everything, and we pay people to come and shoot for us, we know what it takes to produce a quality episode and how it requires consistency. If you're going to do 2 episodes a week, for example, Musa Khawula is doing 5 episodes a week, every day.
That's unsustainable.
And he's doing views are still okay.
That's unsustainable long term.
My opinion is that kuzoxatana soon. I'm not wishing him bad, but I won't even say research, but it's inevitable. Unfortunately,
of course.
You know, because people get into arguments. People will feel like they're not getting their worth quickly from the space, because YouTube in South Africa doesn't pay a lot. And if you're hitting 20,000, 30,000 views per episode, let's say you're grossing 15,000 Rand a month, are you going to pay Musa Khawula from that? And how many people are behind the scenes that are being paid? Who's the editor? Who do the cameras belong to? Who does the equipment belong to? And in 6 months, are these people going to feel like, hey, we are making a killing, man?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting topic that you're bringing. I said this to Penwell. When I saw the Penwell show, it was in the morning, maybe Saturday morning.
Yeah, for the first time.
Yeah, for the first time.
And I was like, what the hell is this thing in 4K?
yeah, the visuals were super.
Yeah.
And I texted him that morning and I was like, yo, this is dope. Keep on doing this. And for different reasons as well. I wanted him to get out of the shadow of being called someone who got a co-sign from DJ Spoon.
Yeah.
He is his own man in his own right.
Definitely.
And it's disrespectful to even someone who says to me that I made Junior Kanye or Junior Kanye made me. That's disrespectful. But be that as it may, I texted him that morning and I was so impressed with the visuals, impressed with the conversations as well.
Yes.
When he spoke to his brother, when he spoke to Mandi Samashekho, those were the initial episodes. Then we met, he came through here. He was here and I said to him, because the experience allows you to know that is probably a partnership.
Yes.
I looked at it and I was like, Penwell does not have that equipment. That's why he shoots Penwell the black pen with his phone.
Yeah.
In his own home. And I was like, that's obviously a partnership. So we spoke about that. But what I like about Penwell's attitude is that he is there for the journey. He didn't dismiss what I was saying.
Yeah.
Nor did he acknowledge that that's what's going to happen, that there's going to be a clash at some point in the future. He was like, nah, man, like, yes, that could happen, but I'm happy. I would be happy for the journey. I know that these things inevitably happen. And when Siki was here, I said the same thing.
Yes.
I said Nuzukabana, and because I knew that she doesn't have equipment. So all of what she was doing on Unpopular Opinion, I suspected that was owned by someone else.
Yeah.
And then when she came here and I said that on air, and I said, me knowing people from Johannesburg, someone is going to say some weird nonsense to someone, because people from here are extremely rude. They are difficult to take. I don't like them. I cannot even socialize with them because it's just pretentious.
Yeah.
It's a time bomb of when is this mother gonna disrespect me?
Yeah.
Just a matter of time.
It is.
Like, it's a countdown in my head whenever I'm messing with people from this province. I'm like, when is this nigga gonna disrespect me? And they inevitably, they do that. So there was something that happened there with that relationship. And she wrote about it, of course, and I got a lot of people notifying me about the fact that Nzigi is no longer part of Unpopular Opinion, and I was not surprised. And then a lot of people were saying, you did call it, and I'm like, nah, I don't have to be an expert. Yes, I'm an expert on YouTube, but I didn't necessarily have to be an expert to know that someone is going to delela someone, and there's going to be a break in that relationship, and it happened, And Nzigi and I spoke a lot about what was happening, and what I told Nzigi was that whatever you do, don't get into a similar situation again.
Yeah.
Because I think that she wants to continue shooting, because I think there is a demand from her fans to continue shooting. A vehicle will be created for her, or she will create a vehicle for herself to shoot, so she will own her own YouTube channel. My concern is that someone will say, come and use my studio. And
I've got everything. It's
exactly. And I think that those conversations are happening. Come and use the studio. Now, that's good, but knowing people from here, and no one can make me unsee that and unknow that. I'm not being malicious. I come from a very cool town where we respect each other. We know that there's always like violence percolating if we disrespect each other. So we respect one another where I come from. I cannot change my opinion about people from here. I've learned enough about them to know that they betray each other in business. They disrespect each other, the way that they engage with each other and talk to each other. They are always trying to stab each other on the backs. They are disingenuous, So I know that someone will say, okay, come and shoot with our studio. And I said to her, look, the problem with that is, although that is cool, you may shoot now, but at some point down the line, the same thing that happened with Unpopular Opinion will happen, although it will be different because you would own your own YouTube channel. It will be under your own Gmail, under your company name and stuff like that. But something is going to happen where someone says something, and then when you tlabana, someone is not availing the key for you to go into the studio, and you have a guest here, So I think the anxiety to shoot is there, and maybe the excitement to shoot Fonseca is there. But I would rather, if she sees this, and we've spoken about this, so it's not something that I'm afraid to speak about because it's done in good spirit. If she sees what I'm saying, like, don't shoot, relax.
But are we not speaking at a point of privilege, bro, by saying that to people? Because you and I afforded to buy our own equipment, no matter how long it took. We're speaking from a point of privilege because if a person has the talent, the passion to be on camera and start recording, maybe for them it's enough to be known on YouTube and test out the algorithm and see how far they can ride the wave before the inevitable qabana.
Yeah, but think about it this way, that it's not sustainable, and it's also it's negatively affecting your image as well. That you were in this relationship and it ended, then means you could not shoot, so your fans could not get content from you. For maybe 2 months or for 3 months, and then you go into another relationship, and then your fans,
you announce that you're back, they're all happy.
Exactly.
Meanwhile, it's round 2 of the same thing.
Exactly. And 6 months down the line, again, your fans won't be able to access you. So I think I understand what you're saying, and I take your point that, of course, we do it from a privileged position. But I did not shoot Nkululeko on Culture until I grinded on Itiski, and I made enough money, and then I bought equipment. And I did not shoot for 12 months. So I did not shoot. I was grinding and making money and getting equipment. When that was straight and I knew I could pay for people I need to pay for Nkululeko and Culture, then I started shooting. There's no need for people. I've seen a lot of YouTube channels where people are shooting out of excitement, and then they stop shooting. They stop. Like, they start and then they stop.
Bro, I think, to be honest, it's like 10% of podcasts are still shooting.
Yeah.
From a year ago, kind of thing.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. It's like a New Year's resolution thing.
In fact, I was reading somewhere that many podcasts don't make it beyond episode 12. Like only like something like crazy, like 20-something% makes it beyond episode 12. Then episode 20, 5%.
And it makes sense because people are shooting from excitement. It then dawns on them that this thing is very difficult. Because you have to pay equipment. This alone costs 10,000. And you have to, once you sort out the equipment, even the consistency of being able to avail yourself to shoot for 2 hours, that's work, right? But you're not going to be paid for it. Because there's no guarantee that you're going to be making money from the episode. And the numbers are discouraging as well. But just on that, just to wrap it up very quickly, I think that she doesn't need to shoot anytime now until all the circumstances are right. There are plans behind the scenes. Maybe she's speaking to a couple of more people for different, options. The one option is to use a studio and shoot from there. Maybe the other option, which I've been advocating for when I was speaking to her, is that just save budget, will help out where we need to help out, and then we get equipment, and then you shoot from your house, and you know that you own everything that's here. I know that's a difficult option, but I'm saying, like, I didn't shoot Nkululeko and Culture until I got money from Itiski. So I was not anxious or excited to shoot until I was ready to shoot. And when I got sick a few months ago, and I was stressed out with content, everything, because I've been shooting every week at least 3 or 4 times, shooting something at least 3 or 4 times, and then I got a little bit sick mentally, and I was drained because I'd been shooting for 10 months consecutively, at least 3 things every single week. And I took 10 days off And I spoke to Khalkhal and I was like, yo, I know it's affecting your bread too, but I just need to take this time off. When I felt better, I started shooting again. And we started from shooting one thing per week just to ease my way back into this. And then we're back now to shooting 2 things a week, like literally uploading 2 things a week on Nkululeko on Culture. So I say that to say there is no need for you, after you come from the pressure of a breakup with another channel, to immediately go to another channel, because the other channel will have, the other relationships will have their own challenges as well. And then within 2 months, you're gonna klabana with them too. Relax. The year has ended already. Come back next year. You'll be straight. You'll be cool. Like things I said to her, like, yo, you already are a personality, unlike us who had to build value for ourselves, like, because we were not already like known personalities. Whenever you are known, people know your name. You have 360,000 followers on Twitter,
and it's real people.
Exactly. People already know you, so you don't have to build, so, but all you have to do, just work on a game plan and come back next year, maybe by June, you'll be straight. But I think there is like the excitement to want to shoot, largely because the fan base is demanding more, but they don't have to put pressure on her. She will come back when the time is right. I think, I hope though, because she's not going to do what I say verbatim. She may have a difference of opinion and feel like she needs to shoot as early as next week, and there's nothing I can do about that. But I do hope that, because the year has ended, you don't have to shoot. You don't have any obligation. You don't have, Tina at Disky, we have World Sports Betting. There's sponsors obligation that if we don't shoot, we don't potentially make 400,000 or 300,000. That means mouths are being affected, because we have like maybe 15 to 20 people that work for us across the business. So we do have obligations that we need to fulfill with sponsors, and we need to shoot. But you don't have to shoot. Like Nkululeko on Culture, I don't have to shoot. I have an obligation to the fan base, but it's like, guys, I'm telling you that I'm sick. I'm gonna come back when I'm good.
I want to shift quickly to a bit of politics, because I always find your opinions interesting about this. So for those who are not aware, Nkululeko and I shot before. He came to Durban. I'm at his place today. He came to Durban. We shot, and the footage got corrupted. And something that we spoke about that I don't want to not speak about again is the sustainability of this coalition government. If you know Nkululeko, you know that he's always about, we need coalition 2024, otherwise we doomed. We have load shedding. Even now we are awaiting load shedding. We now prepare our lives around load shedding. But Nkululeko, are coalitions our solution, or it's the best thing, it's the next best thing we have, and because we are so out of options?
Yeah, I speak about coalitions because mathematically and logically, that's where we are going. That's how it looks like we are going, because there's been a steady decline of the African National Congress at the national elections. That logically what will happen next is them dipping on less than 54%. And they're 50%, sorry. They were on 54% the last time around, or 55. All roads leads to coalition now, because they will get 45%. They might even get, if they have a horrible performance, they might even get to 40%. Now, all roads leads to coalitions, because what we already know about the opposition is that there is no opposition that's going to get an outright 51% majority. So I'm not for or against coalitions. I speak about them because I know that that's where we are going. It looks like the likeliest route that we are headed to or headed towards. It's weird because Rob Herzog is speaking about coalitions, and I'm worried about that. When that man is speaking about coalitions, it's like, hey.
You're like, why are my ideas aligned with this man?
Like, no, there's a reason why. And Andle Mutama was here, and he was saying, no, specifically he said, look, for him, he's winning either way. Whether the ANC wins, he wins, because Ramaphosa is his person. The way he's speaking about Ramaphosa is like a father was disappointed by his child, the child not implementing ideas. And
Mayor Chris Papaz, I asked him if Cyril Ramaphosa speaks the principles of the DA. Is that why they love him so much? Yeah. And he said, isn't Cyril Ramaphosa an extension of the DA? And he laughed, ha ha ha, and it was a joke moment. I found it so true.
Gogo Overmachiko says that coincidentally, knowingly or unknowingly, the DA stumbles upon the fact that they don't need to govern in order for their policies to be passed.
Yeah.
They realize that through the African National Congress, they can be able to, protect whiteness,
Yes.
serve the interest of
Yes.
whiteness, advance the interest of whiteness.
Yeah.
So I think that's where we are. Whatever we think of Cyril Ramaphosa, the African National Congress does a very good job of protecting white people, advancing the interest of white people. They speak left, but they walk right. So anything that you think of about the ANC not being adequate, it is what it is. Like, there's nothing we can say about that. You can have, maybe if you interview someone who's a staunch ANC person, they can twist it because they're being evil and full of nonsense, which they usually are. Politicians, all of them, whether it's ANC or DA or EFF, they will try. Every time they have an audience, they will always protect their political party. But I think all roads lead to coalitions. I think there's nothing we can do about that now. And I think that it's strange because there's something happened in Ekurhuleni, and I was following that story. Just that I care. I have enough of I don't care in my body that I will watch something unfold and I'll read about it, and then I'm like, I forget about it. But I remember that Julius Malema was explaining that there was an agreement in principle that the ANC and the EFF were going to vote together in Ekurhuleni to topple the DA, and then they will have their own mayor. And then I suppose what he explained, Julius Malema, was that the ANC reneged on that agreement. Mbalula, I was speaking to him. I think Mzwanele Masina was speaking to him on the night before the vote. And I think they betrayed one another, the ANC. What Julius Malema is insinuating when he spoke to Xolo Mlambi on Newsroom Africa was that the ANC betrayed them, such that by the time it was voting time for someone in DA, in Tshwane, if I'm not mistaken, I just forgot her name, was the current mayor now. When it was time to vote for her, they then got their back on the ANC by deciding not to vote, even though they had decided in principle that they would vote.
Is this not Ekurhuleni for that Mayor Tanya Campbell?
Yeah, something like that.
Yes,
something like
one
that.
of those.
I think it was that, because it was Xolo Mlambi.
They opted not to vote. I remember.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the explanation there was that the ANC had betrayed the EFF from the original agreement. So it is those kind of things and those kind of politics that give you an idea of what to expect in 2024. And it will be a lot of stops and starts in 2024. Because in order for the opposition parties to have an outright majority and have a coalition government, they were going to have to combine all of their votes together, and 5% will mean a lot. 2% will mean a lot in that, because say, for example, that they just through the collection of all of their votes, they get to 52% or 55%. It means that any time, because I'm sure there will be agreements, coalition agreements to say, okay, Tina as the PA, we have 4% and we would like to have a ministry in education or whatever, and they persuade each other. Eventually they agree on whatever they agree to. But if that's not delivered on, then they will decide that they can take this vote to the ANC, who needs that 4% to be a ruling party again. And maybe they could be given what they're looking for. So there will be a lot of stops and starts. And those stops and starts, Andla Mngxatama was saying that Rob Hersov funds all political parties anyways. All of those things will be to his advantage. All of the smaller parties, like Action SA or PA, and Mngxatama was alleging when I spoke to him that they are being funded by Rob Hersov, and I have no reason not to believe that.
Why is he the spokesperson of white monopoly at the moment? How did they elect him and he's going around and just driving a narrative? Why specifically him?
I don't know. I'm scared. I'm terrified of Rob Hersov. I don't know why he's speaking. It's interesting to me.
White money never speaks. Old money never speaks.
Exactly.
It's silently in Bishop's Court,
I've had the same
Houghton,
question as well. I've had the same question as well, Luguti. Like, for me, this is not something that we're used to, and but it's revealing enough. I think that is helpful because it's revealing enough. It's revealing because in his own speeches or in his own interviews, he reveals more about himself every single time he speaks, and that's why it's not a coincidence that in the past 2 months he hasn't done any interview, because I've been observing critically the things that he goes around saying, the way that he speaks about people. He speaks about politicians as if those are his employees, and maybe they are his employees.
Like, I called Mbalula the other day. It's like, wait, dude, just like that, you just call people. He'll literally say things like that. You're right.
Yeah, and he was like, Cyril, we put Cyril in a position to do this. We put Patrice in a position. I'm like, yo.
We put.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And maybe it speaks to, I was internalizing this thing as well, about black people who have money. You never see them have a point of view. Whether they have millions and whether they have hundreds of millions, multimillionaires, they never really have a point of view. They are always wishy-washy, and they are always worried about losing their bread, whether there's controversy around them, whether they are content creators, whether they are musicians.
You're correct. They don't stand for anything.
Exactly, because it's as if, I don't know what's the point, bro. Like, in my lifetime, I'm going to make 50 to 100 million. I know that for a fact. In my lifetime, if I live to see 60, I'm going to make 50 to 100 million. I have this attitude that I have now, even though I'm not a millionaire. Like, I have this attitude of being cavalier and have my say and quit jobs if I'm not being serviced. But I look at some black millionaires and I'm like, if you guys are our children's role models, then our children should not aspire to be you guys, because you are always worried about losing your endorsement, losing your radio jobs, losing your corporate jobs. Like every single time you see black millionaires speak, you always know that, oh, this person says yes, boss, to someone, you know, and I've been internalizing that, and I'm like, man, we live almost in something that is like a conspiracy. It's like there's never any true liberation for our people. You know, even if you're a Patrice Motsepe, you have a Rob Hersov who speaks down on you, because Patrice Motsepe is boss, but it's like, yo, you can have someone who says our family gave his father this first business and this, and he speaks to him like he's a boy. And I'm like, nah, man. So what does this mean about us? I know that there are people who make serious money, who are black, who have a point of view. But I'm saying the majority, particularly the ones that are paraded in the media as though they should be our children's heroes, they have no point of view at all. Any controversy, they send an apology. Even though they were not involved in anything. Like, they can't even date multiple women if they want to, if they feel like it, because they are products. They are walking, talking products, and they are worried about losing their bread. What bread? How much bread is the bread that you are worried about? Mina, if I get 10 million, bruh, I choose to walk away. Yeah. Because I have enough money to last me a lifetime.
Also, if you're a billionaire, and like these people you are saying, they're billionaires and they've got interest in so many companies. As much as these people own the means of power, who you say yes, boss to, I'm sure you've got money hidden in other countries. You've had enough time to hide money. Yeah. So what are you so scared to lose?
Yeah, and they're setting a bad example for future black millionaires and future black leaders as well, because they are always wishy-washy. They have no point of view. You know, and you look at them and you're like, you people want to act as if you are role models, but you own nothing. Every single time they pass away, you figure out that they didn't actually own this, they didn't actually own that. I think that that's problematic, and I don't aspire to that. Like, that's why I'm always counterculture when it comes to that. That I don't want any attention from I don't want to receive any attention. I seek for attention as a function to increase the viewership and the subscriber base for my channels, and that's it, not for myself. Because I think that, Mina, I will be a rotten millionaire. Yeah. Because I will speak my mind. I will speak knowing that I have 10 million and I can live. Like, because even now I have the attitude of I can live. Even at Itiski, anything there that's any type of way, and I'm with Afrikaans people and stuff like that. Anything that's any type of way, I have this thing in my heart where I'm like, well, I can leave this. I don't have to do that. It's irrational to do that. We'll make a lot of money if we stay together as Itiski Media, you know, but anything where people say some stuff the type of way, I have this thing in my heart where I'm like, I can leave, because I'm not fearful of poverty. I come from it. I don't want to live in poverty. But what's the point, bro, of having 20 million? You can't even say anything. What's the point of that? What kind of future millionaires are we breeding if we're going to have black people who are like that? So I say that in relation to this thing of coalition parties and politicians, it seems as though they will always sing to a master one way or the other. They will always be run by groups of people. And I think even voting is a ritualistic thing. Like, we choose once every 4 years to vote for people, and we are participating in our own oppression. We are deciding we are going to vote for political parties, and even when it's revealed to us that there is no change fundamentally, because even if we do coalition parties, and I think that this is a very good experiment, coalition parties, let's see whether or not that leads to an Eskom problem being alleviated, considering that the first time we had load shedding, bouts of load shedding, was 2006, 2007. Let us see then, and we've had maybe 2009 was an opportunity to vote, that's 1. 2014, 2. 2019, 3. We've had 3 opportunities to vote, and we can vote out whoever is in power so that they can solve the problem of load shedding. Now we will have a different party. I strongly suspect that we'll have a different party, which is going to be a coalition party ruling the country. But see what happens to Eskom and whether or not it doesn't speak to the conspiracy of people wanting to fundamentally deliberately destroy and undercut to Eskom from being a functional parastatal, so that they then sell it to their friends in private hands, so that they then, whatever is worth 100 rands worth of electricity, it could be 200 rands, and we can't do anything about it. Could be 300 rands, we can't do anything about it. 300 rands for 50 units, and there's nothing we can do about it. So it's like an ongoing running conspiracy. Every time I think about it, and I'm like, but it's like every time we vote, and it's important that we do, but it's like there is no fundamental change. There's absolutely nothing that changes every time we vote. Interesting thing about 2024, which we started in this chair with different guests that I had, was that in 2024, if the Democratic Alliance have the highest percentage of that vote, which they will, because they usually have 25%. White people are not ambiguous about who they are. They will always give their vote to the DA. White people are 9% of this country, but the DA always over-delivers. They will always get 25, 24%. They could get up to 30% now, because white people will definitely vote for them, or the Freedom Front Plus, and then black people will join the DA and vote for the DA to add to that 9%. They will get them to 30%, and they will rule the country, which will mean that there will be the opposition with the highest percentage, which will mean that a president will most likely come from them. Which could either be Helen Zille, it will obviously be John Steenhuisen. Compromise could be Helen Zille, or compromise could be that they could find a black person within that party. They no longer have Lindy Wamazeboko, they no longer have Musima Imane, so they don't have an obvious candidate. Pumzile van Dam is not even there. They don't have an obvious candidate to put out as a black token president, so that they can, because it will look bad. The optics of it will look bad. Black people will then scratch their heads and say, hold on, what have we just done? We've elected a white person as a president. White people are only 9% of the population in this country. That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen in any country in the world where a member of a minority becomes a president. It happened in America with Barack Obama, but that was a huge anomaly, and his mother is white as well. And of course, he continued with Democrat and Republican politics anyways. He continued with wars. He created other wars. They say he's a drone strikes president, because apparently he killed more people with drones than any other president in the history of America. So it was a farcical thing to give you the impression that we are an inclusive country when they are not. So I don't think there's anything that's going to fundamentally change in 2024, other than the fact that we're going to select a coalition government, and a white president will emerge from that, and black people will be like a slap in the face. They will be like, what have we just done to ourselves? But what is the alternative for the people?
I also want to speak more about the black people, because you speak about there are a lot of black tycoons, black millionaires, who through government tenders, because everybody tenders, by the way, Bidvest tenders for work and gets it however they get it. White corporates tender, consulting firms tender, everybody tenders for to work with government or to work with other companies, right? But particularly black people who made hundreds of millions from tendering. You saying they are not good inspirations to younger black people. Two, do you think there's a deliberate attack on them at the moment, because all of them seem to owe tax? And why aren't they paying their taxes?
I'm thinking
people are owing 30 million tax.
As you're asking that question, I'm thinking that do they not exactly, you answered the question by yourself in a way, because I was watching Tokyo Sekhuale speak about the Chris Hani matter on Newsroom Africa, but I was watching it on YouTube, and I watched 20 minutes of it, and I started thinking about black people, black men, black women who have made millions, and I think about, why is it that they're not vocal? Speaking to the topic we spoke about earlier, and I was saying this to someone, that it is possible that every single time that a phone call or an email pops up.
Probably a phone call.
Phone call or
Yeah.
an email, just to remind you.
Yeah.
Remember that we have your nudes. Remember that we have your you in compromised position. We have your recordings in this. That's what the Americans do when they have alliance partners with Europeans, Germans, and whoever is taking the side of an American enemy in whatever era. The FBI will come knocking and they will say, "We have recordings of you, engaging in illegal activity, talking about tax evasion, talking about maybe child. I don't want to mention the word because we're on YouTube. I don't want to affect your episode. So I think the way that they acquire their wealth now is questionable. Questionable enough that they don't have any leg to stand on with regards to standing up for black people and speaking out against things that they see, because maybe the way that they acquire their wealth is compromising, and someone can always leak out information deliberately to say that. Because we are seeing some of the celebrities. Carol Power as well was in the news, and then Terry Petto was part of a group of a lot of people.
There's another events planner who's big in Durban. She's fighting with some municipality, I think Kokstad, for not building a stadium. What does she know about building a stadium as an events planner? Like, guys.
Yeah,
and she probably has a high grade in the construction industry. How do you get that high grade?
There you go.
Where are you skilled? As the director of the company, surely there should be laws in place that says at least one of you needs to be a professional engineer. Full stop. We mustn't speak too much about that. It shouldn't be negotiated.
Yeah.
How do you get those grades if you're a majority shareholder of a company that is specifically doing construction and that's their speciality?
Yeah, no, so for sure, like, I think in a way you've answered your question, because I wonder about them, and I wonder that what should our kids aspire to then if black millionaires, people with hundreds of millions, cannot speak out? And then maybe in a way we are answering the question that, but then that's problematic too, because does that mean that in general, in order for you to become a black millionaire,
You must be corrupt.
Yeah, and that's not a message I want to put out to the world. I take that back.
But is there? Can you honestly say a black millionaire right now that you can think of from the drop of a hat? Give me 3 names that is you feel they've made their money clean and they're a super multi-millionaire.
Well, you can't know whether or not people made their money clean.
But your perception of
the
their
perception,
journey, and does it look clean?
I would look at entertainers. I think Trevor Noah is an entertainer, right? And I think he's a multimillionaire in South African rands.
Yeah.
Black Coffee is an entertainer as well, but there are files about him, this and that. But I don't know that for a fact. Whenever I see him, I saw a recent episode of him on becoming a CEO. Whenever I see him, I say, okay, cool. He's a multimillionaire. He's an entertainer. And there are other people as well, like who I may not be exposed to, who got their money right and got their money straight. And I also aspire to get my money straight, and I want to pay my taxes and stuff like that. So, and I currently pay my taxes, so I don't want to put out the message to the world that black people are inherently corrupt, because I live in a white neighborhood and some of my neighbors are corrupt. They are corrupt millionaires. So it's not a black thing, but I'm just saying maybe the reason why some of these prominent black multi-millionaires, because to be a millionaire takes you 1 million, 10 million is not a lot of money for some people, but there are people who have 100 million net worth, 200 million net worth, half a billion net worth, who perhaps have questionable past, and maybe that's why they can't speak out. That's why they can't even, sometimes I even question this thing of why we don't have our own institutions where we can spread our propaganda. Big radio stations that are outside the SABC, which are owned by black people specifically or exclusively. Big TV channels owned by black people exclusively. Why can't they do that? And they help spread our propaganda. If there's racist programming that's coming from American programming, which is streamed on South African television, why can't we have black people who are multimillionaires, who have serious money to create a counter to that, a counter narrative to that, But what we do know, this is conspiratorial, but we also speak to enough politicians who are trying to know that whenever there are those kind of people who are trying to fund good causes, they do eventually get a phone call. And there's a threat of your assets being frozen and this and that. So that's a problem. But I'm worried that we're going to raise a bunch of kids that are not able to stand up because they are worried that Nivea is going to pull out, Pons is going to pull out, or whatever, like whatever their sponsor is going to pull out. And we're living in a culture where there's a corporate hegemony. You know, corporates are deciding, and even us on YouTube, we can't say certain words now.
Yeah.
You know, because there's a corporate hegemony. Like corporates are deciding what kind of things we are talking about on content. I mean, I had one of the dopest conversations, and of course it was very emotionally draining and difficult for both of us. I spoke to Uzulu Barb, who was working in the industry. We had I don't want to mention the P word because you see, you know, and we had close to 200,000 people watch that episode, and eventually I was like, okay, cool, this is a cool niche. I could have like two of these per month because I want to have a balance. You know, I want to have happy stories and sad stories. You know, but as soon as I did the second and third, then the money starts to be dropped, like it starts to be limited.
You get the yellow sign.
Exactly, the yellow sign for monetization. And you can see that the impressions are served less. So from 200,000, and then there's a more horrendous story with the sexy Antle. It's a more horrendous story that would have done super, super huge numbers, but it got compressed that it got only 20-something thousand.
Maybe we're struggling to coexist then as people, and maybe the solution that we live in silos, and we're pushing too much for rainbow nationism as the world.
Yeah.
And in fact, we should be living in silos and respect each other's boundaries in those separate silos. I'll make an example. People like the Muslim community, they make sure they create their little communities, and they hardly exist outside of those communities unless maybe it's business and they need the mass to access the masses to come and support those businesses or to work in their businesses. But maybe as people, we need to be honest with ourselves that we are struggling to coexist as the different communities.
Yeah. It's not something I've really invested so much thought in, but perhaps just to react to or respond to what you're saying, I think we have a problem if we're going to force people to see the world from our perspective. You know, we're going to struggle, particularly if we force people to see. Like, I know I'm a Xhosa person. I'm proud of my language. I love it. But when I'm in Joburg, then I learn Sotho. I learn Zulu, and I engage in these podcasts in English so that then a Venda person can understand, a Tsonga person can understand, a Pedi person can understand, you know, and I cannot impose Xhosa and Xhosa culture. We have our own definition, for example, of what a man is in Xhosa, right? But that's not necessarily a definition of what a man is in Zulu, in Sotho, in Tswana, in Pedi, you know, and I recognize every male adult as a man, like in Nota, you know, even though when I engage with another Xhosa person, we then have to speak a specific, even our greeting must be specific, so that then we can ascertain where we are, where do we stand. You know, it's like a coded language, you know, but I cannot then impose that on other people because they're not part of that, you know. So I think you learn to coexist with people through that. But I do think that I've had a problem with the way that things have happened, so much so such that we are forcing people to not be able to express themselves proper. I don't want people to be killed. I don't want people to be oppressed fundamentally, but I don't want people's speech to be limited and restricted if they're not advocating for the killing of groups of people, for things that really, you know, this thing is wrong. Yeah, but this thing of, for example, controlling speech so that then if I say you are a woman, when I see a woman, can't do when you recognize yourself as a man, I'm misgendering you. This lack of empathy that we can teach each other in that moment and educate each other in that moment. Or go to, oh, okay, so you're saying you are a woman, but I see an image of a man because I've lived in a society where a man looks like you, then that's a problem. Secondly, we have to have a very constructive conversation about the participation of LGBTQI community members in sports, in things like sports, particularly the transgender issue. How do we resolve that? You know, and the transgender community must be able to understand that there is an inherent advantage in me being Nkululeko as a male man now, and then transitioning into becoming a woman, and then go to boxing to fight against a woman who's not transitioned. That's a conversation to be had, and we need to have a degree of empathy. We cannot have people being shut down for saying or speaking out about those. And the people that do speak out, we cannot have people speaking out in a way that then encourages the physical bodily harm of those people. So we need to have a degree of empathy. I think that there's a huge lack of that fundamentally, and then the thing of coexisting is something that we've always had to do.
Yeah.
Because we are a country we're not a monolith country where in Denmark everyone speaks the Danish language, or in China predominantly people speak what is the language
Mandarin.
in China? Mandarin.
Yeah.
Thank you. Predominantly everyone speaks Mandarin. So we're not that kind of country. So we've always had to coexist with people. We've always known, me coming from the Western Cape, I've always known about the existence of Sotho people. I've always known about the existence of Pedi people, True Generations, Muvango, all of these programs. And I'm like, okay, cool. Whenever I engage with them, then I will have to know that this is a Tsonga person. And then I cannot impose my course on them, and they cannot impose their Tsonga on me. So coexistence is very, very important, but I think we are being disingenuous in the way that we address some of these issues. Dave Chappelle mentioned something very important in one of his comedy specials, and he kept on mentioning it until it happened, that at the time that there was a Me Too movement and women were speaking out, it seemed as though it was not enough that they speak out and they talk about these men. They wanted exclusively that their stories to be believable. They wanted exclusively that believe me and take the bread galungelo, because Lungelo sexually assaulted me in year XYZ, right? And we could not question that. And now we have to fold our arms as men, and we have to be reminded of our pasts, that we've been oppressors of women in those feminist narratives. Now, every single time an allegation is made, we have to test it logically. We go to, okay, you saying that this happened to you, it was done by this man, and you're reporting it on Facebook. Have you considered going to the police station? Because if Lungelo does something to me physically, I have to go to the police station. If I retaliate, I must understand the consequences that are going to happen to me as well. So people wanted to have a fundamental right of speaking out against people and wanting them to lose their bread without having those tested. And that's why you had a DJ Fresh case. I don't know what happened to that because I wasn't following it, but I know that there were allegations and euphonic, and then there was a text from that young woman that she was lying or something like that. And then it's like those people are consequenced, and they were on radio at the time, on 947 or something like that at the time, and they were consequenced and they were taken off air. Their bread was affected, but the person then had said that it did not exactly happen. There was a recent story now with a young woman who alleged being sexually assaulted by a young man. I think they're high school students. And then the young man hung himself. And we lost a human being. And it was a false accusation.
So I hear you, Nkululeko. It's you're saying that the narrative at the moment is it's towards that when an allegation is made, there is no room for testing.
Yeah.
And once you test, you are an apologist. You're considered an apologist for whatever that violence is, right?
We are being blackmailed into not speaking out because we'll be called apologists.
But Nkululeko, the statistics are saying that a overwhelming majority is true. And as humans, it's fair to then act accordingly because an overwhelming majority of those cases are true. Right? These anomalies are now happening. We are seeing the anomalies happen.
Yeah.
So we need to find a good balance between testing.
Let me ask you what must happen. What must happen?
So I'm saying
what must happen when an allegation is made?
I'm saying
why must it be taken to the court of public opinion? What must happen? You make an allegation against me. Mm-hmm. Now TV must fire me. Are we abandoning the idea of going to a police station and saying, this has happened to me? And sometimes you have to go to the clinic, you get a Z88 form or whatever it's called there, and then the doctor will say, I've seen this wound and that wound and that wound, mm-hmm. and then you take it to the police station. Now you can argue about the inadequacies of the police station.
I was about to go there.
But that is the only recognized framework within which we exist, and it's better than the court of public opinion. You can get lawyers, You can, bruh, I know it's difficult when you come from the township to get anything being followed up upon, but it's a much better system than a system of court of public opinion. Because what do you want to happen? You are reporting it there on Twitter or Facebook. In order for what to happen? You are raising awareness, and then in order for what to happen, he must lose his job. And then in order for what to happen, like, until what happens? At what point do you go to the police station and report? And then you can go to Twitter and say, here's the case number, I've opened it, there's no follow-up. Yeah, bro? You go and open, you say, this is.
So I get you. You're saying that the logical route is to follow the system that exists.
Yes.
The framework that is there to protect you. And if the framework is failing to protect you, then you have a right to go out there. Because it's almost as if you are saying, I can't afford anything beyond this, and I'm still not getting justice.
Yes.
And now there's a social media that exists.
You can do it even concurrently. You can open a case even when they're following it up properly. You can write on social media if you feel like it. Although at some point in court, that could be used against you. If I'm not mistaken, like you are prejudicing the case, you are making false allegations about this person. Maybe you added an additional layer of information which you did not mention to the clinic when you were writing on social media. So you are messing up your case in the first place. Because what must, like, you know, Dave Chappelle, when he said something about this cancel culture and Me Too, he didn't say this exactly, but he was insinuating that something is going to happen here with these men. Because what you're trying to address is a monster, but you are addressing it in a monstrous way. You are addressing it in a way that it knows how to play. You are playing the game exactly the way that they know how to play. So what is going to happen is that somewhere down the line, people are going to stop listening. And at some point, people stopped listening to these young women. At some point. And the other thing is that now so young men, they do commit atrocities. They take from young women. When they do, unfortunately, they take predominantly, and this is a reality. Predominantly, we make relations as young men and young women, and predominantly it's successful. She consents, you kiss, and you do whatever you do because you are happy, you are young.
Yes.
It's not a pandemic that people are being sexually assaulted. It just so happens that it does happen, and there are significant numbers to that effect. So when you take it, statistically speaking, randomly today there are lovers. Teenagers, young adults, they are kissing each other.
And it's consensual.
And they're consenting.
Predominantly, right?
They are consenting.
But we're also recognizing that one is too many of
exactly.
it being taken away from you without your consent.
Exactly, because you don't want that to happen, but that happens.
Yeah.
Now, what is happening is that people, their bread is taken from them, right? They are being smeared. And eventually they are exonerated at some point.
And it's not just your bread, because you can be a public figure, which means there's a whole family tree of people who are affected because of your success, or the lack of success in your life.
Exactly. And then what happens is, I need to explain this in a way that makes sense. I hope I will. A culture emerges from that. You are reporting people, there are false allegations, and some of them are correct, and people lose their bread. Some people get arrested. But with this Me Too culture, it became a court of public opinion where people are piling on and piling on and piling on. Now, imagine what will happen then so you're creating a new culture where young males knew that there is a consequence to what they are doing. They are taking, right? But there will be consequenced, depending on whether the young woman reports it, But then, now, with this new culture, you are making these young men double down on what they're doing. So they are taking, but they know what will come afterwards. The pile on social media, getting arrested, which he should be arrested. What he works out in that moment is, I might as well take a life too, because he understands what will happen. It's like, I might as well get rid of the potential for the person to speak out against me. So they took, because you said no, and then they go on to take a life too. And there was a rise of those kind of cases where people take. And I'm not blaming people reporting it. I'm saying when they see what happened to other young men who did or did not do what they were accused of, they then double down. And then when they find themselves in a state of panic when they are taking, which they shouldn't take, they work out that this thing is going to explode. I'm gonna lose this, I'm gonna lose that, I'm gonna lose that. Instead of just being arrested, then they double down and they take. That's why I said I wanted to make this point properly. I don't know if I'm expressing it properly.
I'm hearing you. So what do we do, Nkululeko? What do we do? Because we're saying we don't like cancel culture. We're agreeing that it has its elements that are doubling down. It has its elements that are taking bread from people's families. And once again, just as one lady or one queer person being violated is one too many.
Yeah.
A man's bread being taken away is also one too many. These are livelihoods.
Yeah.
One person's bread being taken away, especially those bread where they didn't do anything wrong, it is also one too many.
Yeah. I would like to appeal to people who are activists and people who are social media personalities. I think that a lot of people are cynical. A lot of people are cynical and they choose sides. When someone is a feminist, they stand with whatever a woman is saying. I think that that's wrong, and I think that's potentially dangerous, because what you are doing is encouraging other young women who are 12 years old, 13 years old, 17 years old, 18 years old to have that approach to life. You cannot have that. If, based on what I'm looking at in front of me, I see logic or evidence of someone lying about someone, taking from them, I should then be able to say, look, the evidence suggests that this did not happen to you. But what happens is people are very cynical because they have sides that they've chosen. They then say, I wait to, anyways, men take from women. Yeah, but unfortunately, we're on YouTube. We even have to use words like take to avoid the word that we should be using. And we apologize for that. You know, and then the feminist activist says, I were to men take, so we have to always believe the victim. I think that that's wrong, and I think that that's insidious. It's not helpful for our country. And it's not helpful for the world as well. I think that within your heart, I don't know what kind of a human being goes to bed at night knowing Uguti they are supporting a point of view which is wrong. Uguti Lungelo is in prison for a false accusation, and I am supporting it, but I know it's a false accusation just because I am known as this activist. It's the same thing with these social media personalities who are cynical about when young women are expressing their pain. Uguti, this has happened to me, my father did this to me, and then they find ways in which to articulate why your father arrived at the point where they felt like they need to take from you. So we need a balanced outlook in life. There are no easy answers, unfortunately. Ideally, in an ideal world, like whenever something happens to you, someone must be arrested. Ideally, what I don't want is a bunch of young women thinking that writing long posts on Facebook is a solution. It's not. It's not. You're exposing yourself, one, and secondly, you're not reporting that in a police station. You're not going to the clinic and making sure, I don't know whether you prep land or whatever they get. PEP, yes, thank you.
You get the pill after being violated.
Exactly, yeah, thank you so much. And just make sure that you do those things. Of course, in an ideal world, we would say those things must not happen to you. But we know that as a function of a colonial apartheid South Africa and poor people coexisting in those spaces, the townships, they take. In fact, this country is more dangerous for young men than it is for young black men than it is for any other groups of people in this country.
True.
Because it generates 20,000 murders per year. 20,000 murders per year, and that's black on black, because in every township there's shebeens and there's negative stuff that's happening. You're talking this way about my girl, you're talking this way about my sneakers, and then we stab each other.
And we're both drunk or we're both high, so
absolutely.
we act irrationally.
And we stab each other, and I've seen it where I come from. So this country is more dangerous for young black men. That's why whenever I'm being interviewed, I say I can't go to my township. I do go like 5 minutes and I'm gone. It's like I'm a myth. People say basically I'm born and we saw him, but wasn't really here type of thing. I'm in and out because I'm always aware of the danger that exists, and it's not a danger that has anything to do with me. It's a danger of the haves and the have-nots. The kids will target you because they know that now you are on the class of the haves, and we are the have-nots, and we need what you have. And that you have to understand that. And you have to understand that that's a place that produces violence as a result of the structural planning of apartheid, of putting our people in those places. And it's not an excuse, but that's the kind of human being that comes from there. I had to train myself that no is no. And I've never had a problem not knowing that no is no, but I had to train myself that, if she's saying no, she's saying no. And I've left women in hotels, like literally paid for everything, flights and everything like that. And when they're playing hard to get, I'm like, I have to leave. And I've left. But I know that people from my township, considering that 4,000 or 5,000 has already been spent,
They think
they
they've
will have a
bought their
problem.
way into that. They've bought consent.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They will have a problem understanding that that's a no. And it's a no, and you have to leave. And I'm like, and the person, sometimes they're just testing you. They're testing your resolve and they don't want to look like they're easy. And I'm like, nah, bro, like, your no is a no for me, and I leave. And I've left on more than one occasion, on more than one night. It's not like I have a problem with that. I've been successful in other nights, but like I've had these kind of nice ways, like you have to leave, but that takes training and self-discipline to know that that's a no, you have to take it and then you have to leave. But the township doesn't produce rational thinking human beings because it's not a space for that, and that's why the township produces 20,000 murders of black men every year. It changes, sometimes 15,000, sometimes 16,000. That's a lot of people.
Yeah, it is.
Every 12-month period.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people. But I think we are very cynical. The feminist is extremely feministic, and the guys who are part of the manosphere that want to talk about men's rights, they are extremely on the other side as well, and they think that they are the brands and they have to represent young men.
They represent masculinity and what masculinity is meant to look like.
Yeah, it's a shame because young men are actually impressionable and they listen to that message. But I would also not want young men to listen to the feministic message, because now it's extreme. It makes you feel as though you don't deserve anything as a man in this world. You deserve death, if not anything in this world. And I think that's a very bad message, and it's very corrosive and insidious. It's not a message that I would like young black men to consume.
The ANC is going to bless us with load shedding soon. So,
Oh, yes.
so we need to wrap up.
Okay.
Firstly, thank you, bro, for inviting me to your beautiful studio. I'm finally part of the Nkululeko on Culture family now, I think.
Must come through for an interview.
Yeah. Family a bit before we close off, because you are a person, you're a human. I'm seeing that you're more stabilizing, getting into your Grootman era. Wakumdeni Ganga, uyaphela, uyaphuma kuko. Is that deliberate? And do you think that family is still an important thing we should maintain fundamentally as humans? And are families really so important in what makes the world happen and be functional?
Dr. Francis Cresswell Singh advises us that as black people, we should not have any children before the age of 30.
Mm-hmm.
We should not have any children 5 or 10 years apart. So one child, 3 or 4 years, another child, and then maybe 3 children, and then you're done. And you must not have any children before the age of 30. You must be 30, be educated, get a job, and then you can focus on having children. She discourages children from having children.
Mm-hmm.
When I was 22, I was a child when I had my daughter. I've been fortunate enough that she's the only one, and she's 10 now, and I'm 32. And I learned a lot from people like that. And Dr. Amos Wilson, they give a lot of teachings about when there's a man and a woman in a household, it gives the child the best possible chance to be a thriving human being in the world.
Hear you. Yeah.
I'm violent and I'm emotional, largely because I've never really had a male figure.
Mm-hmm.
But you then learn to suppress that. You know that there are consequences to
Mm-hmm.
being violent.
Mm-hmm.
You know that there are consequences in business for making emotional decisions. So I'm violent and emotional. I recognize that, but I'm not. Like, I don't express it. I just know that internally I'm so there's so many things that are wrong here internally and that I'm trying to work on. But they don't express themselves. Like I've dealt with you, I've dealt with Khawkhelo, and I deal with a lot of people with decency and respect. But in terms of family, in order for kids to thrive, you need to have a man and a woman in that environment. Of course, that's like a heterosexual world that I'm expressing. Maybe in an LGBTQI framework, you just need
you need family.
Man. Yeah, you need two
Stability.
human beings,
Yes, who are invested in growing this person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I mean, in that sense of heterosexual, that you need they need that. And I've tried to do that.
But there's I actually read this yesterday. I can't remember the name. She's a behavioral scientist.
Sure.
And she says the happiest people in the world are unmarried single women.
No, it doesn't sound right. That doesn't sound right at all. Kevin Samuels, just go and consume a lot of Kevin Samuels content with single women who are 30, 40, 45, 50. All of them, there's like some rage inside of them, and there's a lot of frustration inside of them, because there is a window of opportunity as a woman. That is your best possible chance of having your ideal mate, like the ideal man who earns the ideal salary, who will give you the ideal life. That window shrinks at some point when you are after 30, somewhere between 25 and 30, it still exists. It doesn't completely close because you can always get someone, but the ideal guy who's going to provide the ideal environment money-wise, who's going to provide the ideal environment with the suburb that you live in, and the suburb you prefer. So that doesn't sound right for me, but because you have a lot of evidence that shows that a lot of black women are frustrated because they invest their womb, or they give their womb to the wrong guys at a certain age, and they have regrets about that. Ganti, the guy that they generally looking for, the guy who earns the guy. So you and I are anomalies that we, in our lifetimes, you are under 30, right?
Yeah, 28.
And I'm 32. In our lifetimes, we've already made the first million.
Yeah.
Right? But that's only 1 to 10% of the global population.
Yeah.
People will make their first million under 30 or at precisely 30. So that's the ideal guy for the woman. Besides the looks and everything else, that's the ideal guy, because she understands that there's the potential for a stable environment is provided by the person, because they can buy a home. The children can go to a certain school without her having to pay any expense at all, because that's the ideal thing. She would rather look after the household and the children as well. I think it's innate within them, although modern women have now been trained to be part of the corporate sector, and work, and of course no one is holding them back from not working if they want to. So the ideal mate is a guy like me and you, and a guy like me and you who are straight. Our ideal mate is converse, that the older they grow, then we look for the younger. So between 18 and 25, that's where we're looking for, because Tina, our attraction is the physical. So a woman would be at her physical peak in terms of attraction at that age. At 18, she will be the thinnest when she's 18. And I'm not objectifying, I'm just being logical. She'll be the thinnest when she's 18. When she starts working, of course, even Nami, I was 60. When I entered the workplace, when I was 20, I dropped out of university, I was 65 kgs. Now I'm 100 kgs. After working and eating bad sleeping patterns, and this is the product of that.
Yeah.
At 32, of course, I'm working on that. I can reverse that, So what we're looking for is males, particularly males who've made millions or who are millionaires, is something that looks the part because generally speaking, when you are a young male who's a millionaire, even when you're 45, which is around the age where people make their first million, in general, the average people make their first million. Even when you are that because you are part of a corporate environment. You go to meetings, business meetings, functions, and workshops. What you want is to look the part, a young, gorgeous woman to go to these meetings with, and these workshops with, and these conventions with. So there's a tendency then to look at between 18 and 25, because that's the peak physically of women. And this is not objectification. This is human behavior. If it wasn't happening in this world, then I wouldn't be breaking it down that way. And a lot of people who've invested time in researching that have found that that's the thing, and that's why 40, 50-year-old men look for 21-year-old young women.
And not their age mates.
Exactly, because she's missed the window. She's outside the window of her peak attraction. Although she can randomly find a guy who is not the one that she would like. Ideally, she can randomly find a guy. Maybe they have a chemistry, but it's not the guy who has 25 million, who has 45 million, who will make her not have to pay for anything. And that's what I seek as well. Like, seek to provide that. I want to be the guy who provides the house so that you don't have to work and stuff like that. And I'm happy to be that guy. so that I then have to worry about the creation and the work, and I don't have to worry. Like my daughter does homeworks at least 5 times a week, and none of that includes me. It involves me because maybe it's Afrikaans, maybe it's a little bit difficult, but
Yeah.
it happens once every 2 weeks. I don't want to be part of that. I don't want to relive my schooling experience. I didn't work hard so that I can do homeworks for children. I would rather even buy a tutor. Yeah, but yeah, it's best that you provide that kind of life, so that it's fundamental for the development of your children. Yeah, but that you have that kind of environment. If you cannot have it, it's cool. Like I'm more than happy to be a single parent if life puts me in that position.
In that position.
Yeah.
The show is Engineer Your Life. I'm Nkululeko. He's Nkululeko Nkewu.
Yo.
He keeps on telling us that he's got a lot of millions. So
I don't have at all. I'm gonna make money.
yeah, I'll see you guys in the next episode. Thank you, Nkululeko, bro.
Thank you.